In this video, I will try to explain why the Merkaba meditation is so powerful. A lot of people ask me this question, and to understand why this is such a special meditation, you need to understand sacred geometry, because we use sacred geometry in the Merkaba meditation. So in this video, I'm going to explain what sacred geometry is, how it works, and the energy of sacred geometry. And at the end, when we get to the point of energy, then you can understand why this is such a powerful and special meditation. So welcome, my name is Stef and I learned the Merkaba meditation in 1999 in Holland, and I loved it. This was the first meditation after many years of trying to learn to meditate. For the first time, this was a meditation that I could really do, and I could build a routine to do it every day. And every time with this meditation, I got to this state of clear, calm mind. I felt really good, beautiful energy. And this is the one that really changed everything for me. And I started teaching this about 10 years later. So I've been teaching this for a long time. I've taught hundreds of people. And this is something I hear from a lot of people, that this is the first meditation practice that they can actually implement and really build a routine that they do every day. It's amazing. So in this video, I'm going to take you step by step into a journey about sacred geometry. So I will start by explaining the very basic of sacred geometry. Then I will show how you can find sacred geometry in nature. It's like sacred geometry is the design language of nature. Then I will show how you can find this in the human body, because we are part of nature. The next step is to show how that appears into art, because we see this as something beautiful. Artists know this. And you will find it in design, you will find it in architecture. Then I'm going into the energy of sacred geometry, and this is where it gets really interesting. This is where you start to understand how important this is and how certain shapes create a certain energy. And then we are going to go into Merkaba and really explain why the Merkaba is so powerful with the specific sacred geometry shapes we are using there. So even if you already know quite a lot about sacred geometry, I think you will find some new things here, especially towards the end. There probably will be things that you didn't know about. So I think you will find this interesting. And totally at the end, I will show you how you can build a special sacred geometry meditation tool to use in your practice. I will also share how you can learn this meditation technique for yourself. So stay till the end, I'm sure it will be worthwhile. But let's start at the beginning. What exactly is sacred geometry? To explain this, we're going to look at something that is called the Fibonacci sequence. This is a number series that got discovered by an Italian mathematician, Leonardo Fibonacci. He lived around 1200. And he found this sequence when he was studying population increase of rabbits. Because, that's what you do when you're a mathematician. You're going to study rabbits. Anyway, he found this sequence, which goes as follows. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. You see it on the screen. And the trick of this sequence is, it seems a bit random, but every time you add the first two numbers to get the next one. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. Then you take 1 plus 2, that equals 3. You take the last two numbers, the 2 and 3. Together, that gives you 5. 3 and 5 together gives you 8. 5 plus 8 gives you 13. 8 plus 13 gives you 21, etc. You can go on forever like this. So that sequence is known as the Fibonacci sequence. And this is very special, what he found. It's like a design language. One of the things that's in there is something we know, the golden mean ratio. So when you divide the bigger number by the smaller number, two next numbers next to each other in the sequence, you will find 21 divided by 13 equals roughly 1.618. this is something that we know as the golden mean ratio. This is very important, and we'll come back to that later in this presentation. The other thing that you will find is something that we know as the Fibonacci spiral. So the Fibonacci spiral gets constructed. You start with the two squares of the size of, let's say, 1. Then you get the next number that creates the next square, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, etc. as you see on this screen. And you can draw a line in this way, which will create a spiral. And this spiral you will see in nature. Once you start looking, once you know about this, you will start to see sacred geometry everywhere in nature. So the first example I want to show you is the sunflower. And you may have seen this before, that you can see some kind of spiral effect in the sunflower. Well, as you can see on this picture, it perfectly follows this Fibonacci spiral. Another example is this, the pine cone. Again, you can see this spiral in there. And what's interesting is that we find this beautiful. Somehow we are attuned to this. It's not like we sit there with a ruler checking if it's really correct, but when we see this, we can see the beauty of this. Another example, you see it everywhere. Spirals, the Nautilus shell, very famous example of the Fibonacci spiral. This is so beautiful. But you see it in something like hurricanes. They, as you can see here, they follow the same patterning, the same design. I mean, this is incredible how nature works. Nature is not random. It's like a higher intelligence behind all of this. And you can see it in flowers, like this one, the rose. Of course, the rose is a symbol of love and beauty. Total sacred geometry. It's amazing. And speaking of flowers, this book is produced by Keith Critchlow, and he really looks to the sacred geometry behind flowers. And he goes much more than just a Fibonacci spiral. He goes into numbers and patterns, shapes. Really stunning book. And it's interesting, Keith Critchlow is actually an architect who studied sacred geometry. He uses that in his designs, in his architecture. We'll come back to that later. And this book is all about flowers. Really beautiful book, can really recommend this. But it's not just flowers, it's in our food as well. Look at this broccoli. I mean, this is so beautiful, you don't want to eat it almost. There's fractals, there's spirals, there's so much happening here. It's pure sacred geometry. But it's also in the more mundane food that we eat. So this is a really interesting game. If you start slicing your fruit or your vegetables, like we do here, tomato, pepper, cucumber, apple, you'll see number patterns. It's everywhere. It's really beautiful. So it's quite interesting game to do. I did that for some time, where, okay, take a fruit and slice it. You need to find out which way you need to slice it, and then you start to see all these shapes and number sequences in the fruit and in the food that you eat. It's beautiful. And you start to see the wonder, like, wow, nature is so beautiful when you can see it like this. But it's also in something like snowflakes. So this is a crystal of a snowflake. And you can see that snowflakes have a hexagonal design pattern in them. I can show that more like this. And if you have this one, see what you can also find in here. If I draw it out, you have that Star of David effect in here, which we use with the Merkaba. So this is quite interesting, it's beautiful. But here's another example, bees. Beehive, again, hexagonal kind of design. But what's interesting is that if you look at the bee itself, they also have a hexagonal design in them in terms of sacred geometry design. It's amazing. Here's an example of a sea turtle. So here's a quiz to do at home. Count the number of shells in the sea turtle in various parts of the body. you'll find Fibonacci numbers all over the place. Here you can see a beautiful picture of a snake. Look how beautiful this is. Total sacred geometry. And when you zoom in on the skin, look, you'll see fractal patterns, sacred geometry, patterning. It's just amazing. So we have looked at sacred geometry in nature, in animals, in flowers. So let's have a look at the human body, because we are part of nature too. So here's a first image, and this got made famous by the book from Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code. The length of the bones in your hand, that first little bone to the next one, the ratio is 2 to 3, then the next one is 5, the next one is 8. Remember that one? This is pure Fibonacci sequence. And when you take the length of your hand to your underarm, again you've got the golden mean ratio in there. But it's not just your hand and your arm, it's all over the body. If you look here, golden mean ratio everywhere. You know, I talked about the golden mean ratio. You divide the bigger number by the closest smaller number, 1.618. It's everywhere. So our whole body, again, sacred geometry, Fibonacci sequence, it's like the design language that was used. But even really zooming in, this is your DNA. Even in the DNA strands, you find this golden mean ratio, sacred geometry in there. It's amazing, it's everywhere. And also in the face, there's sacred geometry. There's a very interesting study that was performed by a university where they looked at what we perceive as a beautiful person. So they showed a group of people different pictures and they asked them to choose which one is the most beautiful to you. Now they took people from different cultures, and to their surprise, across all the different cultures, they all selected the same face as being the most beautiful. And they didn't expect this at all. So when they were done looking at these faces, what they discovered was the face that was chosen as the most beautiful one was completely perfect sacred geometry. So some examples of that you see here: the nose to the distance to the face, the lips to the eyes, etc. So there's ratios to, again, golden ratio all over there, and it just shows we are somehow hardwired to recognize the sacred geometry. When we recognize this, we perceive this as beautiful. But it's not just in the face, it's everywhere. It's in the design of the eye, it's in the lips, the teeth, the size of the teeth in relationship to the mouth, to each other, sacred geometry everywhere. It's just amazing how it works. And because we recognize this as something beautiful, artists recognize this. So they use these principles in art, and you can find that everywhere. So here's an example of a photo, which is an artistic, beautiful photo. But why is it beautiful? It uses Fibonacci ratios, Fibonacci spiral in this case. Very simple example of that is if you take a picture and you have the horizon in the middle, it's nice, but it can be a bit boring. If you shift the horizon downwards and you create a golden mean ratio, it's more interesting to the eye, it's more pleasing. So here you have an example of a very famous painting, The Great Wave. Guess what? Fibonacci spirals in there. Here, look at this photograph, how you've got perfect Fibonacci spirals dissecting all the elements of this picture. And look at where that person is. It's exactly at the center of that spiral. That's why this photograph really works. It draws you in somehow. It uses the Fibonacci spiral. Once you start looking like this, you can never unsee this again. It's fantastic. I find it really fantastic when you start to realize how it all works. I love it, as you can tell. For the same reason, sacred geometry is used in design, because they know we resonate with this. So in logo design, for example, it's in there. But not just logos, they use it in product design. So this car, the design team actually, not by accident, they purposely worked with sacred geometry, golden mean ratios as much as possible in this design. This is an Aston Martin, by the way, because they know that people will find this car beautiful when it's designed like this. It's amazing. It's everywhere. So by now it will not be a surprise that, of course, they use sacred geometry in architecture. So here's an example of the Eiffel Tower, and as you can see, here you find the golden mean ratio in there. Here's another example, Italian building, Fibonacci spirals beautifully in there as well. Here's an example of a design of a church. As you can see, it can get quite complex. Here is a pagoda, beautiful structure full of sacred geometry patterning in there. Here's a last example. This is the golden stupa in Myanmar. Absolutely stunning design. And then we finally get to the energy of sacred geometry. Now this is where things get really interesting. Because sacred geometry is not just about whether we find something beautiful or not. It's also about the energy. Certain shapes create a certain energy. So I will demonstrate that to you. The first example is here. This is a cube. It's square. It's very kind of hard male energy, right? And these are the places that we live in. It's not a coincidence, but that's maybe a different story. So we live in square houses, square bedrooms. Okay, maybe they're more rectangular, but you get my point. All these corners are square. It's a kind of male, hard energy. Compare that to this. So here you have a yurt. It's round, and it creates a completely different energy. If you've ever been in a yurt, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Or Indian teepee is the same idea. It's round. It's female, it's soft, it creates this warm, holding, nurturing space, this nurturing energy. Completely different feel from being in a square space. It's not a coincidence that indigenous people were living in round spaces. You know, nomads in Tibet, Mongolia, in Africa, they've got round clay huts. The Indians in America, round teepees. It's female. It was a much more female society. You know, we grow up literally in the woman. We are in the womb, which is this round space. And the housing that they use, they mimic that to give us this sense of holding, this warmth, this safety in the house. That's what you want. Can you imagine that you would grow up in a square womb? It would be terrible. You know, okay, maybe a crazy example, but you get my point. So just as simple, the square and a circle, such a change in energy that it creates. So shape create energy. But it's not just the shape, it's also the dimensions, and the dimensions related to the human body. So in this example, if you have the bedroom, okay, square one, if you have a quite low ceiling, that doesn't feel nice. I mean, tune into this picture. It gives a bit of a claustrophobic feel. It's like you can't breathe, your aura touches the ceiling, it doesn't have enough space. Where in this example, if you make the ceiling a bit higher, now I can breathe. It's much nicer to be in this kind of space. Same square shape maybe, but the ceiling is higher. So the dimension in relationship to the human body, very, very important. But if you go the other way, if you make it too high, like here, that also is not very nice. Now it becomes kind of cold. Also, accentuated by the materials that they use here. But, you know, when it gets too high, it's not that comfortable either. It needs to be just right. So here's an example. They use that in churches, for example. Here is a church that was designed to be cozy. It's small, it's It's more intimate. You will feel that you have a direct relationship to the pastor who's delivering the sermon. It's more intimate. Where this one, completely different. On purpose, they've made this really high. It's this grandiose kind of effect where you feel you are very small and God is so big. And yes, they create a beautiful energy here with all the ornaments, the use of colors, beautiful materials. You just are in awe when you get into this space, and it makes you feel small. And that's done on purpose. It's the beauty, the grandeur of God is what they're trying to symbolize here. Full of sacred geometry in the design of the churches. They knew what they were doing. But it's not just Christian churches that use this. In Islam, mosques use this as well. Look how beautiful the space is that they create here. Here, a bit bigger scale again. This one, more intimate. What a beautiful space to do your prayers. It's amazing. Then we get to the next shape. We've had the square, we've had the circle, we get the triangle, which of course brings us to the pyramid in Egypt. Now obviously, this is not just a place to bury the king, right? This is an energy structure. Actually, the pyramid, what this does, this shape, it's got a square bottom and then we've got the sides going up, 51-degree angle. What this does, it really brings in energy through the top down, what we call prana energy. Prana is life force energy. It's known as different names: Qi, Qi, Tai Chi, Qigong, Qigong. It's all prana, life force energy, and it comes down through the top into the space. And you can do really nice experiments at home with this pyramid shape. You can create one yourself. You can see some examples here. I just took cardboard sides and put it over some food. Here's examples with sprouts or water. I did actually an experiment with oranges. I took 2 oranges from the same net, put them on the side, one without the pyramid, and the second one I put the pyramid over the orange, and that one stayed fresh for much longer. Why? Because the prana energy comes in and it's like feeding the orange. It keeps it alive, keeps it fresh much longer. So then, of course, as you can see here, there are people that are trying to sell you stuff. Little pyramid to put over your fruit. Yeah, it will work, but you can easily make this yourself. And later on, I will actually show you a much better tool that you can make for really far less money than what's shown on this picture. So stay tuned for that. I was actually in Czech one time doing a workshop in a space which is a pyramid. It was a spiritual center. And there was so much prana energy coming in there. We slept there overnight in the pyramid. And I got so charged up from the energy. I only needed 3 hours sleep. So much prana energy. It was amazing and you can feel it. It was really nice experience. So pyramid brings in prana energy from the top down, which is going to lead us on to the Merkaba. So far we've talked about sacred geometry. We've seen how you can see it everywhere in nature. We've then talked about the energy of sacred geometry and how different shapes create a different energy, and how the pyramid creates a really special energy. It brings a lot of energy in. That's really special structure. So this now puts us in a position where we can start to understand why the Merkaba meditation is so special. This is because we work with a very specific shape, which we know as the star tetrahedron. Now the star tetrahedron is a very specific and very powerful shape. You may know this in a T2D form. This is the Star of David. That's where you maybe recognize this shape from. But the Star of David is actually the 2D representation of this three-dimensional shape, which we know as the star tetrahedron. Tetrahedron, tetra means 4, hedron is sides, so this is a 4-sided pyramid. And as you can see on this picture, there are actually two pyramids, and together they create a star, so it becomes star tetrahedron. You can see there is one pyramid pointing up and one pyramid pointing down. I hope you can see that on the picture. And the pyramid where the normal pyramid, the one in Egypt's got a square base, and then you go up. This has a triangular base at the bottom, and then it goes up. And you can't see that bottom one, that's a flat line, and because of the angle of the picture. But you can see it on the one that points down. You can see that triangle, the flat triangular base at the top, and then pointing down. So you've got these two pyramids, one pointing up, we call that the sun tetrahedron, and the one pointing down we call the earth tetrahedron. So what this does, it works very similar as the pyramid in Egypt, only it's more perfect from a point of sacred geometry point of view. The one in Egypt, if you flip it over, then it looks really lopsided. This shape, if you take one tetrahedron, you can turn it around like if you throw a dice. If you were to throw this and roll it around, then whatever way it lands, it always looks the same. It's a more perfect geometrical shape, and it points to a higher frequency. But it does the same thing. So prana energy comes from the top down. In the pyramid that points up brings prana energy top down. The one that points down brings prana energy from the earth coming up. So you've got these prana energies from two sides coming together and creating balance. The star tetrahedron really creates a balance. It's very powerful. Now in the Merkaba meditation, the size of the star tetrahedron is very important. You need to have just the right size in relationship to the body. Just like we've seen with the bedroom, low ceiling or high ceiling, it's the same thing here. You can see that on the image of the Vesuvian Man from Da Vinci. The star tetrahedron needs to be just a specific size for it to work perfectly. Now what will happen in combination with the instructions of the meditation, this will really charge you up. Prana energy will come from top down, from bottom up. It will balance you out, charge you up. When you stand inside this, you will physically feel warmer. You can feel that energy coming in. It connects you to earth, it's grounding, but it connects you to source, to the universe. And it shifts the energy up where normally your energy center, your balance point is at the tangent point, which is solar plexus, third chakra. That moves up inside the Merkaba, inside the star tetrahedron, that shifts up to the heart chakra, fourth chakra. And this is very significant because energy equals consciousness. So when you shift your energy up from your third chakra to your fourth chakra, it also means that your level of consciousness shifts from power, ego, to heart, to love. Very, very significant. That's really one of the major benefits of doing this meditation. Shifting your energy balance up to the heart. Unconditional love. It's amazing. Then we will spin the star tetrahedron in a very specific way. And you really need to get the right instructions for this. And what that does, when it spins really fast, it creates an energy light body around you, which is what we actually call the Merkaba field. That's 18 meters wide in diameter. It's huge. And you can really feel this. I can really feel this every time I do this meditation. I can feel when that field gets generated, you can feel it. And the Merkaba field is something, again, that happens in nature. So you can see it here in the light envelope, the heat envelope of the sun. At the sunset you can see it. And you can also see it on the next picture. It's the heat envelope of a galaxy. So Merkaba is not something alien or something, it's a shape we don't normally work with, but this happens in nature. And we are attuning to a state of energy that happens in nature that we had really long time ago. In the time of Atlantis, we had this energy field around us, but we lost it during the fall. So you are recreating that energy field. Now, the shape star tetrahedron itself, this you find in nature as well. So here's the first example, and it's really amazing. You've got a diamond. A diamond, of course we know this is carbon. What happens is when this really gets put on a lot of pressure, the molecules arrange themselves in a tetrahedron shape. Because this is the strongest form in nature. This is the shape that can withstand the most pressure. So by applying all that pressure, when it arranges itself in this shape, it forms a diamond. And isn't it interesting that diamond, which we recognize as such a special material, people are always attracted to diamonds, and not just because it's sparkly, there's other sparkly stuff. Why are we so attracted to diamonds? Again, it's this tetrahedron. At some level, we know it. The other example, even stronger, is gold. Gold, the molecular structure of gold, you can maybe guess it by now, this is in the shape of star tetrahedron. And this is why people were attracted to gold. When we found the gold, it didn't have a value as such. Yes, it was a nice shiny material, but we knew on some level that this was really special, and gold has got really special qualities. It's the structure of star tetrahedron, okay, with a few little extra bits in between. This is not coincidence that two of the most valuable things we can find in nature, diamonds and golds, are using this symbol. It shows you how powerful this shape is. In Egypt they knew this. In the ancient civilization they were working with Merkaba, with star tetrahedron, and they knew for them this was the highest symbol they worked with. And for them this represented divinity. So what we do in a Merkaba meditation is literally you are aligning with divinity. You connecting with your own divinity. It's so special that for the Egyptians it was the highest symbol they worked with. This is the power of the Merkaba meditation. So I hope that with some of these examples that it becomes clear. You would need to build a star tetrahedron to experience that. But I hope in this presentation I can sort of show you, give you a taster of this is not just some kind of gimmick. This is super powerful technology. Now there are people that are selling pyramid systems. The cheap version goes for £2,000. This was in a center in England. And yes, it works. One of my friends bought this. And then he came on my workshop later and stood in a star tetrahedron, the right shape, which are made from bamboo sticks. And I asked him, so how did you feel? And he was speechless. He says, I don't want to say this, but the energy is stronger and it's a higher frequency, it's more pure frequency. I can't believe that you've just made this from bamboo sticks and it's better than this device, this pyramid that he bought for £2,000. And that's the cheap one. They sell special ones. They say, oh, take a silver one, take a gold plated one, £5,000 we're now talking about. You don't need that. You can build this, just a few bamboo sticks. It costs almost nothing. And it's more powerful. And why? Because the shape is what creates the energy. I hope that is clear from this presentation. Now, if you want to learn the Merkaba meditation, then I've got good news for you. You can now learn this in an online course that I've specifically developed. And you will learn this meditation step by steps. There are about 21 videos, really step by step going through the whole process. It seems a bit daunting at the beginning because there are very specific instructions, but everybody can learn this. And I've taught this to absolute beginners, people that never meditated it before, and they learned it perfectly. So you can learn this too. The meditation has 3 phases. In the first phase you do a cleansing and balancing of your energy. Second phase you build a big prana energy around you, which you will then use in the third phase where you spin the tetrahedrons in a specific way and create this big Merkaba field. Then I teach you how to program your field, different ways how you can work with this. Because this is a fantastic tool. It's like an accelerator for law of attraction. And that's just one of the benefits from working with this. I'm gonna teach you all kinds of super special tools, energy cleansing, protecting your house, your energy room, all these things you can do with the Merkaba. I teach you all of this. And there is one very specific, kind of like a new technology that I've discovered, which is what I call the triple Merkaba. So not many people know about this, but that is incredibly powerful. That really shifts your consciousness to the next level. All that is in the course, 21 videos. You get the download MP3 file that you can put on a phone or a tablet or wherever. And you can just, it's a guided meditation, you can follow it along and you can practice at your own pace until you totally got it. There's a special video that explains exactly step by step how to build your own star tetrahedron. So this is already worth £2,000. The course is very affordable. Anybody can pay this. So go for it. And I'm pretty sure you won't look back. And it's one of the best investments you can make. And oh, by the way, when you buy the course, you can also get one personal session with me. I can answer any questions. I can check if your field is out correctly. So that is part of that price. You can find information on my website, stefkling.com. Click on Merkaba and all the information is there and you can get instant access today. So I hope you enjoyed this video, that you found it informative, that you learned something new, and I hope that I could somehow transmit a bit the energy of this meditation. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, that really helps to grow the channel. And thanks for watching.